Mainstream media is pushing the narrative that Trump's firings are causing chaos in America's national parks. They're running with two stories. The first one takes place in Yosemite National Park in California, where Trump fired the park's only locksmith, leading to visitors getting locked inside bathrooms, which of course is a big safety issue. The other story is about insane wait times to enter the Grand Canyon. Welcome back to the Security Bros. I'm Ken, this is James, and according to the Washington Post, Trump fired the only locksmith with the keys and institutional knowledge needed to rescue visitors from locked restrooms. The locksmith, Nathan Vince, says he's the only one that makes the keys, the one that fixes the locks, that installs the locks, and has all the knowledge of the security behind the park. And so it's a critical role, and without it, everyone else in the park is handicapped. So I have a question, because people on X are wondering, why would a park have a full-time locksmith?
Places with a lot of locks typically have somebody on site. Actually, in your early days, I believe that was one of your jobs, is you're a locksmith for a college campus, right? I think you've talked about this in some of the other videos. It's not uncommon for facilities or institutions with a lot of locksmithing needs to have a full-time person to do that.
Yeah, so especially in a remote location that has several buildings, it's not just a national park to go visit. They have administrative buildings, they have closets, they've got storage buildings, they have various restroom buildings, as well as probably cabins and other things that require not just locks, but like an on-site locksmith can also manage things like the door hinges, the door hardware, like the handles. They can rekey things, add new keys if people are losing keys. Once again, if this is a park, it's a little bit remote, there's a certain convenience in having someone there all the time to make sure that the maintenance part of all of that is nice and smooth. It's not unusual. I think it's worth asking, do you need it?
I was going to make that point.
Is it worth the cost? But I think for most people, they don't have to worry that this is just some stupid hire. They're not doing anything. It's probably more laid back. When I worked at the college, we would install the locks ourselves, so we weren't hiring external people. Was it cheaper? I don't know. Because, I wasn't installing a lock every day. I wasn't even installing a lock every week. It was more, hey, this door is kind of sticky. This is kind of jammed. Any little issue with doors, and you have a huge college campus, you have a lot of doors, and you still just have the one locksmith. On a park, I'm sure they don't have nearly as many buildings as a college. What I do find interesting about this isn't so much that they had a locksmith. That seemed to be the big concern on X. Everyone was asking, like, what's the deal? Why I had this locksmith? That actually makes more sense. What I'm more concerned about is, how can these doors lock people from the inside? Like the second he's gone, he's the only one that's able to help people, rescue people from being in these situations. Right. He shouldn't need to rescue people from these situations. Right. That's not part is not normal. One thing we've seen with technicians or anybody that's in the service business, they talk a lot about doing this on purpose for job security. They will make sure that something isn't functioning the way it's supposed to, so that they're always needed. Something he mentions is that without him, everyone else in the park is handicapped. He specifically mentions that, and that is like a point of pride for a lot of service workers. But to me, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, like, the fact that he's gone for a second and people are locked inside bathrooms. Like, I understand if you're locked outside, because it's normal for doors to be locked from the outside. But for people to be locked inside and trapped and needing to be rescued 10 seconds after you're fired, because you're the only one who can, this is a routine thing. You're saving your job by constantly making sure that people are locked inside. The only reason that happens is for one or two reasons: incompetence or negligence. People shouldn't be locked inside of his buildings. I mean, that's just building code 101. And so he clearly
could be, just like over dramatized for effect.
It could be, but assuming that the report is correct, assuming what he's saying is true, assuming what Washington Post is saying is true, that people are getting locked inside buildings, the problem isn't that they had a locksmith, but they had the wrong locksmith. And so if it was me,
fair point,
I would have fired him anyway. Even if they're going to keep the job, he should go, or he should be reduced down to someone in a training position. I don't know what kind of locks he was putting on the door where people would be locked from the inside. That is not the way that it's supposed to work. That is a a huge safety issue.
Yeah, it's a big problem.
The fire issue is all kinds of issues. And the fact that he was doing this for 4 years, actually, I think 5, maybe 4 or 5 years at this place. Like, what the heck?
Yeah, you got to get those bathroom doors fixed.
I know he's really pissed off about losing his job, and I'm not glad that he's out of work, but it sounds like he needs to get more experience, if this is even true.
Yeah.
Maybe he would be willing to recant and say like, well, it happened one time, whatever. Okay, I can understand. Maybe the door was like jammed or something, but if it's a key issue and you have to use a key to get someone out of a building, that's messed up. You should always have free egress, unless it's a prison or it's like some sort of military situation or there's some specialty reason. Everybody should always be able to freely egress.
Definitely a fire code issue at the bare minimum, that you should always be able to leave a building without needing a key, unless, like you said, a very specific situation. Another alternative could be, instead of a dedicated locksmith on site, you have more of a general maintenance handyman type supervisor. I know a lot of buildings, like tall towers and stuff in the city, will have a dedicated maintenance supervisor in the building. Their job is just to come in every day, and a lot of times they'll just kind of mill around and do some simple things, like you said, with the door situation, a little squeaky door or whatever. You just kind of like fix some stuff, but they have a general idea of how like the HVAC systems work, the key, door handles work, the electric works. They're general handyman, maybe master of none type situation, but they can cover a lot of the situations. And then if you need some of that more major specialty work done, you bring in the professionals for that. As far as costs go, could be a better use of money than just having, say, like a dedicated HVAC guy for your national park or a dedicated key guy for your national park.
The second example of these firings causing massive chaos in the national parks takes place at, as I mentioned, the Grand Canyon. A fired probationary worker named Jen Landau claims that during President's Day weekend, lines of cars waited at the southern entrance to the Grand Canyon National Park for an hour and a half. He says that's double the typical time it takes to get into the park, and that's directly because we were understaffed. My question to you is, what's the normal wait time at the Grand Canyon southern entrance?
That I don't know. I've been to the Grand Canyon multiple times, actually, and it took a long-ass time to get in.
I looked it up online, and I looked at 2 things. One, I looked at the actual Grand Canyon website, which discusses this, and I looked at review sites where people were discussing how to get in.
Got a wiki page?
So, according to their own website, it takes 45 minutes to 2 hours to get into that particular entrance.
That's well within spec. Hour and a half.
Right, and they tell you, depending on the entrance, how long and what's required to get in and stuff. So according to online reviews, most people were saying it takes 45 minutes during the week, and it takes 1.5 to 2 hours to get in during weekends.
Sheesh.
Now, keep in mind, this particular example takes place not only on a weekend, but a holiday weekend, President's Day.
Fake news. This is fake news.
Right, so the point is, like, it's going to take a long time at that entrance anyway, even according to the website. And so when they say, oh my God, it takes 1.5 hours to get in, it's like, it always takes 1.5 hours or 2 hours to get in on a normal weekend. And this is a holiday weekend.
It's like saying traffic is really busy in Washington, D.C. on 4th of July in the evening. And it's like, they're doing the massive fireworks display thing.
I always get tired of all the gaslighting from mainstream media. Now,
everyone's
if you want
tired
to
of
make
it.
a case for like, why is it that we're firing like 4 park workers from a park as opposed to getting rid of other like wasted government? Like, how many of us really care that the national parks, the national parks hired too many people in the park to keep the park nice and clean and to help visitors and stuff? Like, most of us don't have an issue with national park employees. That's not where we're like, government waste, taxpayer money being spent inefficiently. Like, that's the one thing we maybe do like that the government does, is they make some nice looking national parks for us. And so I'm not trying to defend national park employees getting fired when you've got like 100,000 IRS agents coming after every freaking dime that I make. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, let's hire.
Not a single one of them has gone. Yeah. Not a single one of them has been fired. And he's adding on new tax agencies, and he's going to hire more people for that. But yeah, the national parks, apparently he needs them. Yeah, so I'm not here.
I think they're planning on getting rid of most, if not all of them, or reallocating them to something else.
So, well, I'll we'll see.
clear it
Like,
happens
so
there.
far, we're getting rid of the national park guys.
Yeah.
So
Well, save the
once
national
again,
park guys.
I'm not advocating for getting rid of like national park.
Yeah.
But what I don't like is being lied to by media about stuff like chaos. Oh my God, in
Right.
1.5 hours, when it always takes 1.5 hours.
I think we're all tired, like you said, of the gaslighting, where it's like, if it's a reasonable, like, make a reasonable argument for reasonable issues.
Because then you lose people.
Right.
When you
Like, don't make up some like fake or embellished story because you're like, oh, we need the attention. But then you find out it's some embellished gaslighting type story. And now I'm just so like, I can't even take you seriously or trust you because of how you're dealing with the situation. Just be honest and real.
since this whole thing comes down to, efficiency. Efficiency in business, that's an interesting thing. And it's very uncomfortable. But one thing I have found, like in our own business, is that whenever you have limitations, it forces creativity. Let's say we know that we have got like all this sort of background work that needs to happen. And if I had it my way, I would be hiring a lot more people to come work on all this stuff that we do administratively. There's a lot of administrative things that have to happen for any little thing to have that a customer sees. So we have like our office work, we have our field work, any little thing that happens in the field, there's like so much that happens to happen administratively. I would have a lot more people hired if I could. Unfortunately, the business does not allow that with what we can charge and whatever. And so what you end up having to do is get more efficient on the back end to make up for that, because I can't hire those people. So I have to figure out how to do it with less people. How do I do it with less people? Well, we find a way to simplify our business, how we run things from top to bottom so that more stuff can be done with less people. And so it does force a certain amount of efficiency. I'm not saying in national parks that you even are really aiming for efficiency. Not everything in life is about being efficient. My guess is the relationship with your wife is not about efficiency. It's about support and love and all those things. Probably efficiency is not at the top of the list.
Yeah.
Completely fine if it was, but for a lot of things in our life, efficiency isn't the top thing. And so I can understand how in some cases, maybe that's not even beneficial. But what I will say is that when you find yourself under limitations, it forces you to get creative and be more efficient. I mean, if you have this park and they had all this staffing before and they still had these really long wait times and now they have even less people, sometimes what that forces you to do is to completely rethink how people enter the park. And I think a big part of it when I was looking at their website was they have all these different ways, like things that you can pay for in terms of passes, a lot of different types of passes. Some people have passes to all the national park, but a lot of these different, like a day pass, you can make a vehicle pass if it's up, but it's only good for up to 15 people in the vehicle. You can have a per person pass. So you have all these different things and they're all paid for at the entrance as you're going into the entrance with a credit card. And it's not efficient because that's how you end up with the backup, because everybody gets to the booth and now they're making their purchase. First thing that came to my mind was when I see cars entering a space that's going to be charged for, I think of a parking garage or a parking lot. And nobody pays while they're like entering the parking lot. You just take a ticket and you go. You pay on the way out. And a lot of times what you do is you pay even before you get in your car to leave. So you could maybe pay at a booth. But at the very least, they also let you pay as you're exiting. And so there's multiple ways for you to pay in advance before you leave. And so this way cars can actually get out faster as well. And so I'm thinking, well, why not allow people to pay online, like on their phone, and maybe when they get in, they just like scan a barcode on their phone, like, oh, that's a ticket.
That's what I was going to say.
And then
Maybe
bam, you're
develop an app.
You're going fast now, right on in there. There's ways to do that. And the thing is that if you have, they say good is the enemy of great. So if you have something that works, you don't, like, what's the term? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So if it kind of works already, there's no reason to take it to the next level.
Another idea, they already have an entire system of this. They actually use it to, just milk you dry for more money every day you drive around anyway, and that is the Easy Pass toll system. They could just put an Easy Pass there, which you use anywhere else. Actually, I don't know. Do they have Easy Pass on the West Coast? I don't know. Anyways, but they can use an Easy Pass and you just drive through it and it just sends you like a toll bill, bills your Easy Pass for driving into the park.
In this situation, the media, first of all, they gaslight the whole thing.
Yep. Gaslight.
Right. Now, I don't enjoy that. You don't enjoy that. I know the viewers don't enjoy that. But if you enjoyed this video, like it so we know and share it so your friends know.
Bye.